Welcome everyone to our May event for men. This is Mental Health Awareness. My name is Dr. Jade Burns, and I'm an assistant professor at the University of Michigan School of Nursing. And this is a community event that we've been doing for the last couple of years. And we've had quite a few events from January until June. Again, this is focused on mental health, and for men, this is a community academic partnership between Detroit Community Health Connection and the University of Michigan School of Nursing. We thank our funders and all of those who support us, in particular, the Curtis Center, and Mr. Ware, who I will introduce, will thank all those who are our supporters for these events to really help men in their health. And Mr. Ware, thank you. And he will introduce our esteemed panelists. And Mr. Ware, he is the current Vice President of Operations at Detroit Community Health Connection, the oldest federally qualified health center in Detroit. Is that correct?
That is correct.
In his current role, he plans, directs, coordinates, monitors the competitive landscape, and oversees operation activities in the organization. In addition to this role, he has a passion for serving and has collaborated with numerous agencies in Detroit and Metro Detroit, everyone knows his name, and to create health events tailored for men's health and the overall community, which have reached thousands of individuals. We know that this event is very timely, and we want to pay our respects for the events that have happened these last few weeks, which include the Buffalo supermarket shooting and the Texas incident at Robb Elementary shooting. We have a quick moment of silence for all those parents, family members, community members, just people who are just viewing this. This is a very sad time, but we have all these professionals here who will not only talk about mental health with men, but other resources that can support our overall community. So just a quick moment of silence. Thank you, and it's on to you, Derek. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I just want to talk a little bit about Detroit Community Health Connection. Detroit Community Health Connection is a federally qualified healthcare center. You probably know the term FQHC. Detroit Community Health Connection is a primary care organization committed to providing accessible, affordable, and quality services to all members of the community we serve. DCHC serves everyone regardless of their ability to pay. We serve the uninsured and underinsured, as well as patients who are covered by various types of insurance, including Medicaid and Medicare. With all of that said, we're not a free clinic, but we provide those services. I just want to say good afternoon and welcome to our great panelists. May is Mental Health Month. We're at the end of May. So like Dr. Burns said, we've been doing this for a couple years now, so we didn't want to end without doing it and dedicating this segment to men's health, of course. And May is Mental Health Month. We have some great speakers, Eric Scott, Mike McElrath, Dr. Ed-Dee G.Williams, and Harrison Shelby. So if you gentlemen can actually introduce yourselves and give us a little spiel about you and your organization, and then we'll dive into some questions that we may have. Mike, let's start with you.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Michael McElrath. I am the Marketing Communications Director for the Children's Center of Wayne County. I am pretty much married to this work, in particular, working in mental health, community mental health, and working now with children. I've also had some very helpful and wonderful time with Detroit Wayne Integrated Health Network, working with them. I see some of my colleagues from the city of Detroit Health Department on board too. So I've been around just helping the physical and mental well-being of those in the city of Detroit and Wayne County. I also had a few years working with the Wayne County Health, Human, and Veteran Services as the communications director there, tackling several health issues, including COVID-19. So I'm grateful to be here. I'm thankful to contribute. And I'm hopeful that we'll all get something positive and great out of this. Thank you again for having me.
Absolutely. Dr. Williams.
Yes. Hi. Nice to meet you all. See you all. Excuse me. voice is kind of going in and out today. So yes, my name is Dr. Ed-Dee G.Williams. I am a postdoctoral fellow here at the University of Michigan School of Social Work in the Level Up Lab, and I'm also a research associate in the Curtis Center for Health Equity Research and Training. And I do conduct research on Black boys and Black men's mental health, primarily focusing on depression and help-seeking behaviors. My research is about ways to improve mental health services, but also how to help Black boys and Black men understand depression, gain a greater sense of mental literacy, and ask for help in spaces where they need it to improve school mental health services for boys as well. So my work primarily focuses on Black boys, but also do work around Black autistic youth broadly, and help-seeking behaviors for Black autistic youth experiencing depression as well.
Thank you. Mr. Shelby.
Sorry about that. I actually am just leaving an event serving the seniors over in Southwest Detroit. So my whole career has been serving people in different capacities. My background's in nonprofit, higher ed, and also as well in government. Recently served as special projects coordinator for one of the state reps. And I'm currently working on a campaign for my mentor who's running for Congress. But I'm happy to join in today.
Thank you, sir. Mike, let's just dive into some questions. Tell us about your experience in marketing for the Children's Center. I'm sorry, before we go there, I see Mr. Scott has joined us. Mr. Scott.
Good afternoon. How's everyone?
Great.
Technical problems here, but I am here. Yeah, I'm Eric Scott. I'm the owner and therapist at First Step Counseling and Educational Services located in Southfield. My background include work in the school system, the juvenile justice system, as well as returned citizens, our brothers and sisters returning from incarceration. Been in the business for some years, specialty in terms of working with young men, basically ages 24 and above. However, I do service all populations. Primary disabilities that I'm addressing is depression, anxiety, as well as just general men issues and relationship issues. Glad to be here.
Thank you, sir. Mike.
All right. Yeah, I heard the question. You could, if you want to rephrase it just for the audience. I'm
okay.
Good.
The question was, tell us about your experiences in marketing for the Children's Center.
Oh man, so I'm new. I'm a new guy, and I'm blessed to be at the Children's Center. This is I think last week was 90 days. So I got an evaluation coming up. So, but the awesome thing about the Children's Center is that we serve the whole family, and you know, we market to families that are in the system. We have foster care services, adoption services. So there's some work that we already have that's built in, but we also have to market to those families that want to be foster families. This month is not only Mental Health Awareness Month, but it's also Foster Care Awareness Month. So from that, if you really think about it, there's a lot of families that maybe they can't have children, or they want to be a blessing and they have children. There's a lot of children out here who have a lot of trauma, they're dealing with abuse, abandonment. And what we do is we try to provide resources, not only for that child that you know, they get therapy and the like, but they also provide development opportunities for the family, for the father. In particular, we have a organization called the Fatherhood Initiative for Wayne County. It's a convening organization or entity that brings about a lot of those fatherhood organizations throughout the city. And so we're just blessed to be a part of this work. There's a lot of wonderful social workers on staff. I'm just here to share their story and share their work. And I would like to say that as far as marketing to the actual youth and to the children, we have what is called, we call it right now the Center for Discovery. It's a community center where we have summer camp. We have all sorts of activities for the summer and for the kids to do. We have a reading, we call it reading, readers and leaders. I think we have programs where children can engage each other, learn, and it gives them an opportunity to get the resources and the services that they need. So we don't just do therapy, but we also do those other aspects which bring those children in should they need that help. So I think that's the key piece. If we wrap our arms around the kids in all areas, family, community, education, health-wise, with our partners in FQHCs and health centers, we're doing pretty good from that aspect. But we have a lot of partners. We have a lot of colleagues in different organizations. So we are very, very blessed to have this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Again.
Dr. Williams, a couple of questions for you. Can you tell us about the research that's been going on and how it relates to Detroit Community Health Connection, because we are an FQHC?
Yeah, absolutely. So, my work, like I said, primarily focuses on Black boys and Black men, or young Black men, really around that age between 13 and kind of 24, 25 years old. So that's adolescent to late adolescence. Some people call it emerging adulthood for that late adolescent phrase. But what my work primarily focuses on is how do these individuals understand and experience depression? What is their perception of it? And how do they go about seeking help when they have symptoms of depression, right? And the work is ongoing. The first part I always say is that it's very new work. Unfortunately, we just haven't studied Black men and Black boys enough. There's some top scholars really doing great work right now, but it's something that's really just getting into the past 15 years probably, right? And just in the past 10 years, we're finally starting to really dig in to say, okay, let's look at the intersectional kind of perspective. Let's look at them as Black, as boys, and as adolescents, right? Each one of these groups has a significant difference in how they seek help, right? And adolescents are more likely to be independent. Men are less likely to ask for help. Black people tend to avoid professional help, right? So all these different things create a kind of intersectional, a unique intersectional approach to how Black boys and Black men experience mental health and how they go about seeking help. So the work that's happening right now and the work that I do is about not only saying, okay, well, we know Black men need help with depression and anxiety, but how do we improve the services? How do we make more sense for them? And how do we help them understand what's available for them and how they can utilize it for their own benefit? A lot of work around masculinity and how Black men define masculinity and how we can use that to support them, but also guide them into asking for help into services. Again, one of the biggest things is how can we improve services for them? Because we know that so many mental health services aren't designed for Black men in our unique experiences when it comes to things like racism, discrimination, household pressures, community pressures, right? The anxiety that we feel when we are stopped by police. Mental health services don't address those type of things often, right? So the work that I'm doing is really trying to understand that and create a bridge between those experiences and what's available, if not create new opportunities and new programs, interventions for Black men. So that's
Dr.
the
Williams, quick question for you.
Yeah.
Sorry to cut you off, but quick question for you. Since you're talking about adolescents and young Black boys, are you doing any research in regards to partner with school systems or anything? So I think in the last 5 years, terms have been changed as far as behavior in school. What are you doing with that? Because most teachers or most educators would just deem the kid as just being bad in class. So what are you doing with that, and how can we change that narrative?
Absolutely. So my work has been primarily in schools. My dissertation, which I just finished and am publishing currently, all the data that I collected was from public schools in here in Southeast Michigan. I can't name the schools for confidentiality reasons, but
right.
Here in Southeast Michigan. And the first part of it is saying, well, let's see what the boys in the schools are just saying about what's available for them. Where do they feel like they can go when they're experiencing symptoms? The other part is, what do they even identify as depressive symptoms and how do they kind of connect that to their own experiences? What I've found in my research is that, first off, Black boys know a whole lot about depression and anxiety. They know a whole lot about mental health. They know what the symptoms are. They know that it's sadness, hopelessness, despair. But what they have a hard time doing is attributing those experiences to their own experiences. So they won't say, I'm sad, even though they are. When they describe it, it's, oh, you're sad, but they won't say this. Oh, I'm frustrated. I'm having a hard time. I'm feeling down, but they avoid words like sad or, heartbroken, vulnerable, things like that. So in the school setting, it's really about, how can we help those who are there identify the language, just identify the boys that need help, but also how do we get past some of these ideas of what Black boys are? We have to deal with the adultification of Black boys. We see Black boys on average to be about 2.5 to 3 years older than what they are. So we treat them like men before they're there, right? We assume that they're more violent than they actually are. So when they act out, it's because, like you said, they're a bad kid or a bad boy, or they don't know how to act. And we don't say, oh, it could be anxiety, it could be depression, it could be something going on in the home, something going on in the community, something going on in the school that is really causing distress. You know, we had the unfortunate shooting yesterday, and we think about how kids are going to react when they go to school today. And some of the reactions are going to be violent. It's going to be, I'm frustrated and I'm acting out because I'm so scared and I'm anxious, but I don't know how to express that. Right. So really in the school setting, it's how do we start to change the narrative around Black boys' behaviors so that we can identify those who are in need. Instead of suspending them and punishing them, how do we service them? How do we get them into support? My research has found that the boys who are punished and in their punishment, they're forced to go to services, never want to go again. So when you connect services to punishment, it creates a negative idea of services, right? It creates a negative idea of getting help. You want to create a path to service and support that is positive, that's about support and encouraging them to do better, to get better, and encouraging that they can do better. If we create a narrative that is, you're going here because you're in trouble, well, then why would I go again when I have the choice to go? So I'll stop there because I'll keep going out and I want to make sure everybody gets a chance to talk. But
all right, Dr. Williams, I'm gonna bring Eric Scott in. Eric, can you tell us about therapy for Black men? You're on mute, Scott.
Just not my day with this technology here.
Okay.
First of all, Therapy for Black Men is a website. It's a great resource where people can go, not just men. There's also Therapy for Black Women. I know we're focusing on men today, but I just want to kind of put that out there. There's one for the ladies also, Therapy for Black Girls. But it's a great resource where one can go and find coaches, life coaches, you can find therapists, as well as just resources. I think quite often there's such a stigma attached to therapy, and especially for Black men, that is a little fearful. So one of the things that this website, as well as the website Black Man Heals, I think it does an excellent job in terms of just trying to break down some of those stereotypes and make therapy more digestible, if I can use that word. Sometimes I think we fear it and think it's this big, great phenomenon that we just can't touch. So those are two excellent websites. That's Therapy for Black Men, as well as Black Man Heal. So often there's barriers or roadblocks to Black men receiving therapy. And I think one of the biggest roadblocks is just the stigma that's attached to it. You know, when we look at gender as well as racial socialization. And when I say gender, I mean in terms of how men are socialized. You know, we're generally socialized that we can do it ourselves, that we don't have to ask for help. You know, when we look at racial socialization, therapy is for white folks. That's Black folks don't do that. So I think when we look at therapy for Black men, we got to look at just the barriers that's keeping us from getting the help that we need. And clearly the help is out there. One of the other issues that we're struggling with is just not always a lot of clinicians of color out there, you know, especially when it comes to men. Not to say that only men can service men, but quite often you're going to find your greatest comfortability, you know, in that arena. So there's many barriers out there, but in terms of just therapy for Black men, there's help out there. There's websites out there, and believe it or not, there are some services that's free. You know, the goal is how do we get this process started with men in general. We know that our men have a little harder time getting engaged. You know. There's a myth that men don't go to counseling, and that's not true. I am very impressed with my young brothers. You know, they're coming in, they see the signs, they know that they need help, and they're coming forward. You know, does that mean that we're home free? Not at all. There's a lot of work to be done, but I am encouraged that Therapy for Black Men is growing, and there's help available.
And I want to follow up with a question with you, Eric. Have there been any changes to your therapy practice and your clients' needs since the pandemic began?
Yeah. You know, what I found is that overall, not just with men, but there's more people. I'm thankful that I have a waiting list today, you know, but I think since the pandemic, those issues that probably had always been there, a lot of them was brought to the forefront, and it's kind of forced people's hand to get some help. So I am seeing an increase in just people in general who are seeking help. The issues, some of the basic issues, anxiety, depression, and things of that nature. So to answer your question succinctly, yeah, and the changes is more people are seeking help right now, which is a good thing. Absolutely.
And I know I've had you on the radio show and I asked this question before, so people can understand it and relate to it. What is anxiety?
You know, well, one thing with anxiety, well, I always tell folks, if you have anxiety, then that's good because that means that you're alive. Anxiety is a normal emotion like anything else. It's when that there's an excessive amount of anxiety to the fact that you can't function. You know, it's that worry wart whose the life is just filled with the what ifs, and it gets to the point that it affects your daily functioning. And when you can't function because of the fear or just the worry, at that point, I think you need to reach out and seek some help. But again, anxiety within itself is not the problem. It's just when there's an
Well, I'm
excessive
sorry, I
amount.
just want to back up. When you say can't function, what do you mean can't function?
Well, and it's probably not can't function. It affects your ability to function. You know, I
Right.
don't want to go to work today because you know what?
Yeah.
I'm just worried about what if. There is nothing, no proof to substantiate this worry that you have, but you got this worry that, you know, if I go to work, I know my boss is going to say something to me, I'm going to lose my job, you know. And so it's affecting your ability to go to work, or even in social situations. You know, at one point you used to be a very social person. At this point, you know, you just kind of withdrawing, you're isolating, you're not even entering into the social arenas that you were once very familiar with. So it's when I say affects your ability to function, do the things that's generally was normal things for you to do, that you no longer can do those and do those at the same capacity that you used to do them at.
And my next question is twofold for the entire panel in light of what's happening in the country and anxiety. How do we identify, or what can we tell young people about the situation that happened in Texas and anxiety in regards to going to school, and how can parents deal with this and educators?
Yeah. Well, I'll start. You know, one thing I hope is that our schools are becoming more and more trauma informed and prepared to deal with trauma. You know, we have the direct trauma, and prayerfully, you know, we had the Oxford situation right here at home, but prayerfully we have no more here. But, you know, my heart certainly bleeds for the Texas students and families and all. But number one, our schools have to be more trauma informed, being prepared to address the issues. You know, Dr. Williams talked about the fact in terms of young boys being suspended and things like that. But what we know so often is that these young men have been exposed to so much trauma, you know, so a lot of this acting out behavior is their response to that. So overall, I think schools can be better prepared, because unfortunately, this is not going to be the last situation. You know, we wish it would be. But again, I think we as staff have to be prepared to meet our students where they are. And, you know, coming from, and I have great experience in the school system, but so often I think, you know, we're so focused on curriculum and meeting benchmarks that we forget the process. How do we create a safe and conducive environment so that learning can take place? Because if our students are not feeling safe, there's not much learning going on anyway. So again, I think the task really lies upon the staff as well as the parents in terms of really creating a situation, an environment where our students are safe and they feel that, you know, that they can learn.
I would like to echo that, in the sense that we not only create the environment, but we create a safe space to talk about these things. And young people, they have a voice, and sometimes they feel voiceless. And so what we try to do at the Children's Center is we try to incorporate, and I think every clinician knows, person-centered planning. You know, what we do is we look at what they want to do, we set their goals with them, and then we help them achieve them. And so that's not only just in a mental health realm. We want to, you know, refer them to services, refer them to resources that they need to achieve their goals. And when we empower these young people, you know, they're so resilient. They're almost stronger than adults in some aspects, because they don't react the way we react. We have control over certain things, and we have a reaction that can impact other people. These children, they're absorbing and they're reading, seeing everything, and they want to let it out. So in most cases, you have these sessions that are like 30 minutes to an hour. We need to have the community help provide therapy, and not in a clinical sense, but just in a mindset of just being open to communication. And that's part of my area, you know, just pushing the narrative. Hey, we all have to talk. Fathers, mothers, children, teachers, of course. And, you know, the teachers are right there every day. So it's got to be a community. We got to circle the wagons. It's a village. and that village has to have a vision. And, you know, without vision, you know, the people perish. So we all have to focus our vision on our mental, emotional, and physical health, because we know mind over matter. If our mind isn't right, we're depressed, we're going to start eating stuff. We're going to battle obesity. We're going to battle heart disease. All of it falls in line, and it starts with our mind.
Absolutely.
So you hit the nail on the head. And for me, the messaging, the communication around it, I'm so grateful that you know, you have folks like Kendrick Lamar, his latest album, Generational Trauma. He's attacking it right there in his music. So we're getting to that place where it's actually popularized, and it makes my job easier. But we want to continue that conversation, and we want to make it so it's not there is no stigma to it, you know.
Dr. Williams, you want to add anything? You're on mute.
Oh, sorry, I thought I clicked. Yeah, I'll just quickly add, one of the things I think, especially for boys, that we have to do is give them permission to feel. I think that's one of the biggest things that we often miss, is that boys are socialized, not just by us, not just by parents and fathers, but by the society around them, the media, the way they're told how to behave, right? To toughen up, to hold on to their feelings. Even in a time now where we're starting to question masculinity, and we, you know, Kendrick Lamar talking about their feelings more, it's still a world that tells them this is how men behave. And so many boys I've talked to in my research didn't know how to express themselves because they never were told it was okay to express themselves. And so for fathers, for parents, you know, especially given what's happening, you know, what happened yesterday in Texas, what happened in Buffalo, sometimes going to our sons and just saying, hey, it's okay. I know you're frustrated. I know you're scared, because I am. So I can't imagine what you're going through, because you got to go to the schools, right? It's okay to cry, right? I've talked to boys who didn't know they could cry until their father came in and hugged them. And then all of a sudden, like, oh, I can feel now. I'm allowed to, right? So some of it is us giving them verbal permission to say, it's okay to feel whatever you're feeling right now, and to have those feelings right here in this space, and create that safe space for them to have those feelings. Because oftentimes those feelings come out in the school setting during altercation, and it turns into a fight. It turns into an acting out situation. And again, we end up with punishment rather than service or support. So we want to make sure in our homes that we create a space where your child can have that moment to just express whatever they're feeling, however they feel they need to, right? And then we can guide them to how to really regulate those emotions in a safe and positive way. But they have to get it out first. They have to have permission to get it out first. So for boys, we really have to question the way we teach masculinity, and mimic behaviors that allows them to express it in a way that is conducive to positive, you know, outcomes. So yeah, I just want to add on to that, but I think everything else that's been said is great and exactly what needs to happen.
That's deep, Dr. Williams, to allow folks to feel, boys to feel what they feel, because it's real. So that was deep.
Mr. Ware, can I add one other thing?
Yes, sir.
Just to add on to that, you know, we talked about the school system being one of those avenues or pathways to providing the assistance to our folks. But I think we have to also touch on our religious institutions, because we have to look at what's accessible to our people. And so I just want to add also that it's incumbent upon our religious institutions, our churches, and what else, also to get the word out in terms of that it's okay not to be okay, that there's help for you. Just want to add that point.
And also, I just want to add that we have folks in the chat, and they're saying that Black churches are resources too. How do we get Black churches involved? Anybody?
I think I can jump in on that. I'll say this: there are some Black churches, and there's a network of churches that do have messaging, that do have clinicians that are, you know, able to be called on crisis in moments of crisis. And what needs to happen is when you have those denominations of, you know, especially in the Black church, it's so many traditions, it's so many ways and things that people do. That's sort of like a run of the mill type thing. There are certain, I would say, healthcare systems, in particular, Henry Ford Health Systems. They have what is called a faith-based nursing, and they do support groups with all the pastors or any of their designees to get all the resources they need, and people are free to present. You know, their programs, their services, from if you really think about it, we're talking about these school shootings, church shootings, all of these active shooters. Now we're having churches doing active shooter drills.
Exactly.
And they need these resources because it happens. This is the new reality. And so we have some corporations, we have some health systems. Henry Ford, as I shared, I think recently, they've had CERT trainings, they have first aid trainings for anyone in those churches. And so it's good to build those networks, and it's good to have some of those health systems, be a part of that conversation because they have the resources.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Shelby, want to bring you in. How did you get interested in mental health?
How I got interested in mental health, I was struggling personally. Just as a servant leader, I wasn't taught to process a lot of the things that I was experiencing. And then there was this stigma really attached to what I was feeling and just the experiences that I had of feeling at one point, just feeling like worthlessness, and trying to navigate and seek help. And I utilize social media as a way to, as my cry for help. And some people were saying, well, you need to pray, you need to do those things. But I needed to go a step further. And so for me, it was then figuring out what was best for me as far as doing the inner work, looking for resources on my own, because I was so used to sending people resources and about different programs and things like that. And then last year I started therapy. And so I had to develop what self-care looked like. And that's an ongoing process, right? And so those things. And then professionally, I wanted more knowledge because I understood the trauma that the people that I served was dealing with. And so I asked for mental health first aid training, the training warning, so I can recognize and help with suicide on the front lines and things like that. So I wanted to, because my background isn't in mental health, but I wanted to be able just to be that front line, because a lot of the youth that I work with are vulnerable. They were at risk or experiencing homelessness. And so a lot of things that they were dealing with, I needed to be prepared and be able to recognize and be able to connect them to different resources.
Sounds good. So based on your own experience, were you able to find the resources that you needed?
It was difficult to navigate at first, because I wanted to find something that was culturally competent. And I know Mr. Scott talked about that earlier. Mr. Scott was actually my the counselor at the high school I attended. Mm-hmm. And so I was aware of different programs, and I had served on Common Ground Teen Advisory Board. So I was aware of some resources that were out there. But I think when we talked about just normalizing men's feelings and the things that they experience, I think for me, that was a way to, and to also to do that publicly, because people looked at me as a strong person, but strong people have moments where they don't feel so strong. And so it's okay. And I think me expressing myself through social media allow others, because I had so many messages saying, wow, I was experiencing some things as well. And so I was able to kind of share along my journey. And then I think, society tells us men don't cry, and that's slowly killing us. Man up, don't cry, suck it up. The more that we honor the oceans within us, the less our ships will sink. And so it's okay to say you're not okay. It's okay to cry. Crying is good. In fact, there's toxins that are released when you cry. It's okay to admit that you're feeling lonely. That doesn't make you less than as a man. Normalizing men crying, normalizing men being emotionally available, especially in different type of relationships. There's more emotions that men can display than anger, and anger is a secondary emotion. So we need to get deeper than that. And then, just being vulnerable, asking for help, and going to therapy, and, denormalizing the definition of this toxic masculinity. So I think we really need to redefine what masculinity actually is. because media and all of this is perpetuating what it's not, this false narrative.
Mr. Scott, in your experience, how do Black men generally view mental health and therapy? And with their viewing, does that help them navigate themselves into therapy?
Well, as I said earlier, I think one of the views that Black men have about therapy is that, it's number one, from a racial perspective, it's a white person's thing. And secondly, they see it as a sign of weakness, not a sign of strength. And we know being able to ask for help is truly a sign of strength. It's not a sign of weakness. But I think, again, we've been socialized to hey, we can handle this, suck it up, and let's keep moving. So overall, no, it does not help them really that mindset to get into therapy. What we find so often that when our Black men make it to therapy, they're in crisis point. There's substance abuse issues. They're about to lose their marriages, their relationships. The court has ordered them there. So I think the goal, while we are seeing more people enter the therapy arena, I think it's incumbent on us to still continue how to be more proactive, how to reach these people and engage them before their lives get to such a desperate point right there. So, but again, the stigma that's been attached to therapy, as well as just overall the socialization process of men, is one of the biggest barriers, or a couple of the biggest barriers that's keeping men from entering the therapy arena.
Dr. Williams, what do you see the most pressing mental health needs of boys and young men?
That's a good question. I think the recognition of need is a big part. I think what Mr. Scott was saying, like, we see so many boys and men come into counseling when they've gotten to a point of crisis. And often for boys, it's they're about to be kicked out of school. They get ready to get sent to a juvenile facility or a residential facility because their behavior. And now they're getting services. They're getting services because they're in a residential facility, right? They're getting services now because they've been expelled and it's part of the process. And so part of it is recognition of need, both on their side, of the boys' side, but also on the side of those who are supposed to be supporting them, right? Help seeking, I think one thing we need to think about is help seeking. Seeking out help is more than just asking, right? It's made up of social communication skills, right? How do I express this need? How do I express what I'm feeling so that people know that I need support? It's partially a process. I had to jump through these different levels and hoops, these different people that I know to get to the support I need. And so it's a lot of steps in there. So my research recently identified kind of 3 stages that boys go through, Black boys go through specifically, before they get to a point of I'm in services now. And it's usually a system of self-reliance. I tried it on my own. I'm doing this on my own. I don't need any help. That's often tied to like, this is what men do. I'm a young man. I'm becoming a man. So I need to do it on my own. I need to tough through it. Then they go through a phase of, I went to my friends for support, but I don't talk to my friends about my feelings. I talk to them about the experience, right? I'll say, well, my girlfriend broke up with me. I'm mad. I'm pissed off. But I'm not going to tell my friends that I'm sad and I'm hurting and I want to cry, because that's a weakness, right? Then I go to my family. Oftentimes with family, boys tend to be a little more expressive. They'll say they're sad a little bit more, but they're still less open, because again, expressing sadness, that vulnerability is really seen as anti-masculine, right? And so these stages they kind of maneuver through before they finally get to a point, okay, like I am in severe critical need of help before I harm myself, I harm somebody else, or I already have tried. We know Black boys' suicide rates have jumped up since 1992, like something like 120%. Just in the past 10 years, it's gone up like 60%. Black boys at this point have the fastest moving rate of suicide attempts, Black boys and Black girls. Of all groups, white, and we think about suicide as a white issue, right? Therapy is a white thing, but we're seeing Black boys and Black girls become the most have the highest level of prevalence when it comes to suicidal ideation. But then again, the things that we use to measure suicidal ideation aren't working. We're not catching it, right? So we need to address, again, them recognizing the signs of this is when I need to get help before it gets to that point of I've tried to harm myself already or I've harmed somebody else. And it's that really addressing how we recognize those symptoms, recognizing how they seek help, how we can help them seek help. And then we have to change for them as well. We can't expect boys to change their behavior suddenly so that we can help them. We have to be willing to say, okay, we need to change on our side as therapists, as counselors, as researchers, and better service them and identify what's going on with them. Because oftentimes they don't have the language to express it, not just because they're Black boys, because they're young. right? Most of us can think when we're 16, 17 years old, we didn't know what we were feeling. We knew we were upset, but we didn't know why. We were trying to figure it out, right? So I would say those are the things that are most pressing that we really need to address.
I may say something too. It's just to piggyback off of what everybody was saying right here. Equipping the community with the tools necessary to build this environment. DWIN, they offer mental health first aid for certain organizations, so they could identify some of those signs and symptoms of mental health issues. There's also question, persuade, refer. It's called QPR. That's a technique to identify suicidal ideations and how to get those individuals to experts who can help save a life. And those are services that a lot of the organizations like Children's Center provide, and the problem is that the funding, and we talk about the workforce. Social workers are the most unsung heroes in the community. Some of them are underpaid. And I'm honored to just work side by side with a lot of you guys. I've seen some of you guys in different conferences and what have you, but the work that they do is from their hearts. It's not to build a fortune. It's really to change the lives of these boys and girls. And what I think that is really important, and I think we should take pride in the city of Detroit, is I really feel like this is like the headquarters for men's health, mental health issues. I mean, we have, if you think about it, Royce the 5'9", he's talking about it. We got Jason Wilson with his books. We've got Shaka Senghor, who's actually going to be our keynote speaker at our Fatherhood Forum in June. These are brothers who are nationally recognized. They put themselves out there, share their story. And I mean, some of it is embarrassing. Some of it is shameful. But cry like a man. We as men, we have to model that behavior for these boys. We have to say, it's not like we have to cry in front of our boys all the time, but we have to communicate to them how we feel, and not just, be stone giants or robots. We have to show that we are definitely human beings.
Just being honest.
Yep, absolutely. So I just want to salute these brothers who are doing the work. One of the things that we're doing at the Children's Center is we're putting together a group of folks to help. It's called an imperative, crisis to connection. And the crisis to connection imperative is to look at the systems that are influencing the emotional impact and the outcomes for these young boys. So in particular, we're looking at systemic racism. We're looking at implicit bias in all of the different areas that these young boys are touching. And it's a 10-year imperative. So if you go to our website, I will share that in the chat. It's just going to break down some of the actual targets that we're working on. And that was one of the questions I was going to ask you next, Mike. What strategy? Oh man, seriously. Oh, my bad. That's okay. What strategies do you find work well for engaging youth with mental health care? Yep. So from that aspect, what I would say is we don't lead with the mental health care part. We don't lead with the clinical part. We lead with the societal part. We lead with the social part of their lives, and then just have conversations. And I know some of the clinicians, there's strategies that they have in place, but me as the communicator, the way we communicate is and promote these things is just by looking at popular culture. We discuss certain things. We look at Kanye West. We look at these things and have these conversations like we're doing right now, individually as us as men. That's what we have to do. The Fatherhood Forum promotes that, because what they're doing is making sure that these fathers know what these signs and symptoms are too. Some of these fathers aren't as involved in their children's lives when it comes to mental and physical health. When you think about doctors, they take their children to the doctor, and they're talking to the mom, and the dad is like an invisible, he's like just there, holding the child, so we have to be more involved. And I think that's the real connection to getting these children and getting these young people the help they need. We have to create that for them. And so from my perspective, the strategy that we use is we hit the family, we look at the whole structure, and we try our best to facilitate opportunities to have these conversations, to get them the resources they need, and to look at the outcomes and just monitor and walk with these families and walk with these children. Dr. Williams, want to ask the same thing. Do you have any examples from your research of successful strategies for connecting adolescents with mental health resources?
Absolutely. The first part is big emphasis on community engagement. It's connecting the community to services and connecting youth with that. I think what Mike was saying is exactly Right? You don't want to start off with a clinical perspective. You don't want to start saying, well, here's therapy, here's a session, sit here. We have to start off with a point of like, let's talk about who you are. Let's talk about what's going on in music. Let's talk about what's going on in the media. Let's talk about what's popping right now, right? And connect it back to who they are. And like I said, in my work, one of the things that doesn't work is saying, well, now you're in trouble. Now you got to go talk to the counselor, right? Because now I see the counselor as a agent of discipline, and I don't want to talk to them anymore. Right. And that's been the trend that we've done is you talk to the counselor in school when you get in trouble, not when you're in need. Right. The other part of it is really creating a system of support that utilizes peers and friends. So I've been blessed to be part of the Young Black Men's Mental Health and Masculinity Project. YB Men Project is housed here at the University of Michigan. I'm in the Curtis Center. Dr. Daphne Watkins leads that project. And what that does is uses social media spaces and pop reference. We talk similar, talk about Kanye West, talk about Kendrick Lamar. We put these boys in a group on social media for 6 weeks, and we upload new material, conversation about mental health literacy components, things that help them understand what depression is, what suicide is. And we create conversations amongst these young men. So these are mostly college-age men that kind of 18 to 23, 24 years old. And that creates a unique space where also you have men who've never met each other, or maybe you've seen each other around, having deep, in-depth conversations about mental health, how to get support, sharing support networks, sharing, oh yeah, I go to this counselor, I go to this place, I'll talk to this person, right? So creating a system, a kind of ongoing system of social support where people can talk about it. Black men are often so isolated. We're often isolated in our schools, in our communities. There's so many negative stereotypes about Black men that we don't know who to go to. As a Black man who attended the University of Michigan, who works at the University of Michigan right now, I often feel isolated myself, and I have to go out and seek out community and as a Black man to have conversations about things I'm experiencing, right? As a father, as a husband, as just a Black man living in America, right? So leading with that community engagement, leading with that social media and media references that connect to these boys, creating a system of social support, and then making sure that they're aware of what's available, what services are out there, who their counselor in their school is, who they can go to it for, making sure they know that counselor is not there just to discipline you, but there to talk to whenever you need for whatever it is. That's a space for you. Creating a space in that school, hopefully, if you can, that allows shared identity. Oftentimes, school social workers are white women, and Black boys don't want to talk to white women about their problems. And so creating a space that has shared identity where they can go and see other Black boys and Black men and talk about it. When I step into a school that's predominantly white faculty, and they see me, these boys open up about everything because it's the first time a Black man has sat down with them and not been the disciplinarian, not been the tough guy, but been the guy like, oh, tell me what you're feeling. Tell me what you've been through. Tell me what you think about mental health. What is depression? No pressure at all. Just talk whenever you want to. And I find that those boys are ready to open up. It's not the stereotype of they just tough and silent. They want to talk. They want people to hear what they're feeling. So yeah, sorry, I'll start ranting.
That's okay. That's okay, Mr. Scott. Same question for you.
Yeah, I'm gonna echo some of the things that Dr. Williams said, but looking at it from just Black men and period, I think we have to continue to educate our brothers. So often our behavior is based on beliefs, and we're talking about generational beliefs that's not always substantiated by facts. So we have to continue to educate our brothers. We got to do some peer mentoring, mentor each other, share our stories. As Dr. Williams said, so often, man, we isolated, and sometimes it's just that fear factor, even putting our stuff out there because we don't know how we're going to be judged. So I think the more as men, we can come together and just connect. And it doesn't always have to be about the deep issues. Let's just start with connecting and let each other know that we're there for them. I think we have to rely on our families, so often when nobody else can, those ladies in our lives can kind of push that envelope. So we need that help in terms of pushing men towards getting the help that they need. So often, again, when we engage as men, it's on surface issues. It's about sports and things like that. But we really don't dig deep and kind of address what's going on with you, man. How you feeling, man? How's your life going? Those are the areas that we don't touch on so often. So I think we have to continue to educate our community. We have to support each other and mentor each other and share our stories, the good, the bad, and the ugly, because we all got them. Even we don't want to admit it, and then just continue to create community among ourselves. That old village concept. So often we use that, but I think it becomes an empty phrase. And I think that's one of the things that we have to really do is just try to reinvest in our village, because if you got a sick village, you're going to produce sick people. And so what we have to do is really invest in our village and really empower each other as we move forward. And we can do it. We can make it happen. I'm convinced.
Gentlemen, we have about 5 more minutes, so I want to make sure that we get some contact information and last words from you. Let's start with Dr. Williams.
Yeah, so I'm happy to always have conversations and support in any way I need. So you can reach out to me on my email. I'll put it in the chat for now, but I'll be happy to share it with anybody who wants to get it also. So people reach out to me. But I guess my last words would be that, you know, we're in a space now where we're having these conversations. It's still new. We're still learning. But continue to be, if you can, of support to any Black man in your life. I mean, men in your life and boys in your life. I think we need that. We need the space to know that we can be vulnerable in a safe way. I think ask questions when we're confused. I think ask questions when you're confused. If you have a young man in your life and you don't know where to go, ask questions. Really put the pressure on schools and counselors to step up also. I think as parents, we don't go to our school counselors enough and say, hey, my kid needs help, and you're not helping them, help them, right? Put the pressure on them to do that, because when we do, we start to get the answers and get the support we need, so.
Mike, same thing.
I'll jump in and I'll just say I'm grateful to be a part of this group here. I'm not a clinician, but I'm grateful to learn and be able to translate some of the messaging and some of the projects and programs that are provided through these organizations. What I would also just like to say is just don't let it be just a health observance when we talk about this stuff. Give yourself the time off, a time out, use your PTO. You as an individual have to provide self-care to yourself. So you know, they say it on the airplane, you know what I'm saying? You have to put your mask on first before you help somebody else out. So everybody needs to take that time out. This is my time out. You know, the Children's Center, they provided for this month a timeout. We call it TCC timeout. And what that was is, hey, you get one day, you don't even have to use PTO. This is just your day to do you. Get yourself together, go out, take a walk. All of us need to do something that we enjoy because we're stressed. There's a lot of stuff that's going on in the world. Just like Texas, just like Buffalo, we need that time for ourselves. Be kind to yourselves so you can be kind to other people.
Thanks, Mike. Mr. Scott.
Yeah. First of all, I want to thank Dr. Burns for the work that she's doing and just for help creating this platform. I've had the privilege of being on several platforms that she has worked on or have provided for us. So a big salute to her just for the work that she's doing in terms of helping brothers out, you know, to you, Mr. Ware, also. And it's a privilege to be a part of this panel with you esteemed fellows, you know, continue doing what you're doing. I think it's important that we continue to invest in us, you know. So often, I think in our community, we've been conditioned that hard times is just a part of life, and this is just the way it is. And not so. We can elevate ourselves. So I think it's important that we continue to connect with each other, to elevate ourselves and elevate each other as we move forward. Again, I have all confidence that we can make this happen. Things can be better. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. Harrison.
Yes. Again, just want to echo what everyone said. And again, thank you for having me on today. And I apologize. I had an event prior to this and trying to come back and forth. But I just believe that men, especially men of color, need more spaces to be vulnerable. And sometimes we need men, we need other men to be able to share our weaknesses with other men to talk about. And support each other and challenge each other and learn how to navigate, you know, challenges in a healthy way, as far as spiritual, emotional, and relational challenges that other men might be facing. And then, you know, taking the time to nurture yourself, figure out and developing a plan for self-care. And, you know, for me, having struggled with mental health, I think not judging where you're at and being patient and kind to yourself, because there's a lot of just expectations you and responsibilities as a man, and sometimes, you know, you just need to give yourself grace. And so I just wanted to add that. And then men's mental health is still one of the most stigmatized topics within men's health, and so we have to continue to push these conversations in, you know, our circles and different things like that. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. Your feelings are real. Gentlemen, I thank you so much for participating with us. Dr. Burns, we couldn't have put this on without you. Just want to thank some of our sponsors, University of Michigan School of Nursing, the DRB Lab, of course, Detroit Community Health Connection. We are continuing working with the University of Michigan School of Nursing. What would we do without Dr. Jade Burns? We appreciate all you do and how you promote these types of platforms for our community. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I believe we're at time. We will send all of these links, contact information in the follow-up via the Eventbrite registration, and also on Facebook. And then it'll also be on YouTube and disseminated widely through other social media platforms. Thank you to our panelists. Thank you to the people who attended. I'm so blessed to work with all of you. And so guess what? I'm going to be asking you again so we can start our in-person men's group, who it'll be run by Mr. Ware, hopefully, or somebody in that space. But thank you again. And you all have a great Memorial Day weekend. And we're going to be doing a men's health run, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so we'll provide more information on that. So thank you. And I'm going to stop this up recording, and you all have a very nice day. Thank you again.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, yeah, take care.
Thank you, fellas. I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Hey,
That was
my
good.
pleasure.
That was great information. That was good.
Hey, appreciate